Welcome, it's Professor Drew Blake again, and this is the third and final module we'll do for the basic Excel. Now this is more advanced, but it does give you a good idea of what you can do. So let's get into it. Okay, module 3 here, we got financial calculation and data visualization. So we're going to do these questions. I have a function down there. And what we're going to do is I'm going to create a graph as well to show it. So first one, in column M, that's right here. I want each season that Barry Sanders ran for more than 1,500 yards as an excellent season. If not, I said leave it blank, but we're going to put a little dash what I want. So what I want to say is if he ran for more than 1,500 yards, I want it to say excellent, okay? So I'm going to say equals. And what we're going to do, this is called an if function. Very powerful function that we can use. It's a logical test. And I want to show you down here that everything in Excel will tell you exactly what to select first. And when you're done with that part of the function, you hit comma. So what I'm going to do is a logical test. Now, what I want to say is if he ran more than 1,500 yards, I'm looking at yards. I'm in row 8, so I'm going to start in row 8. And what I want to say is if, now let's make this logical thing, if it's greater than, so I'm going to do the greater symbol, 15, I'm going to type in 1,500. Okay, so that's my logical test. If it is greater than that, as you can see, this is not yes, not yes. Greater than, if I said greater than equal, that would count. Okay, so then what I do is hit comma. That is the first thing, is a logical test. And now what it's going to say is, what if the value is true? What if the value is true? So if the value is true, and we said I want excellent, if you're going to type in okay, just real quick. If I wanted, if it is true, I want this cell to be shown, that would show that number, 14. Okay? But in this example, what we're saying is if it is true, I want to say excellent. So I had to put a quote. Anytime you say a word, I'm going to put a quote and spell excellent. And then I'm going to do another quote. So if it is greater than 1,500, it'll say excellent, comma. So we have logical, if true, and now what if it's false? So I said I wanted a dash, so I'm going to hit a quotation. Now if you're doing a number, you don't have to do quotation. And I'm going to put that dash in there, and I'm going to put a quote, and then I'm going to close it up. As you can see, I did it correct. It is false. It did not work, and it gave me a dash. I'm going to hold down Shift, go all the way down, and then I'm going to hit Control D. And now it gave me every one that was greater than 1,500 yards. It says excellent, and if it's not, it's the dash. Okay, next. In column N, I want all seasons that Barry ran for more than 5.1 yards per carry and ran for more than 1,500 yards. And I want it labeled as best season if he did do that. And if not, I want to have it say failed. Okay, so what is different is that instead of doing 1, which was yards, I got 2. So we're going to do in this example, I'm going to do another if function. And then the logical one I'm going to do in this part, and. I'm going to do an and function. I did if. So if you look at the if function, I'm in the logical part of it, and then I did and. So in the logical, I need and this and that. So the and function is going to be, and again, I'm going to read this again, ran more than 5.1 yards. So I'm going to go the average. I want that greater than 5.1. And then when I hit comma, that's doing the and function. So every time I hit comma, I need and this and that and that and that and that. So then the next one I said and ran more than 1,500 yards. So I'm going to go to the yards, and I'm going to say greater, and that was 1,500. And then I'm going to close that up. Well, what did I close up? I closed up the AND function. And I'm still in the logical test, right, of the if function. So the if function is these two things that must happen in order for my logical test to work. Okay, so that's what I wanted. I'm going to hit comma. So if it is true, I'm going to put quotation and say best season. And then if that is false, I'm going to hit failed. Close it up. Look, he failed because he did not meet those two criteria. I'm going to scroll all the way down, and there's not going to be probably too many years. He did it. Best season was in 1994 and in 1997 that he ran for more than 1,500 yards and ran for more than 5.1 yards per carry. And just to show something really quick, if I open this back up, as I mentioned, see how I did a quote of best season? Now, what if I said, well, this was a fail? I'm going to go to the fail part. If it failed, I just want that cell to be there, 34. So if it's a fail, 34 should show up. Now, it does now have how I have it set up, so it's not going to show correct. But I wanted to show that if you put a number, you don't need a quote. If you put a word or something like that, or a symbol, you need a quote. Put it quote and unquote. So I'm going to call Control Z, and that's going to back up my last thing I did. And again, if you want to save these files, hit Control S, automatically saves it. All right, so we did an if function. We did an if with an and. Now we're going to do an if with an or. In column O, have the column say he did it if he either had over 340 carries or more than 13 touchdowns. If not, type in he failed. Okay, so this is an or. So we got two things here. He has to be over 340 carries or more than 13 touchdowns. So it's either of those. The and function is both of those. The or function is either one. So I'm going to type in if. And then we're in my logical test. Now I want or. Now here's my logical test. So what I want carries. Where's carries? So I'm saying if the carries are greater than, what did I say, 340? 340, and then I'm going to hit comma. Now we're still in the or function, so I could hit comma as many times as I want. It could be or this, or that, or that, or that, or that. I just need one of those to work, for it to work. Or more than 13 touchdowns. So then I'm going to find where the touchdowns are. I'm going to select that cell, and I'm going to say more than 13. I'm going to close that up. That finalizes the or, and I'm still in the logical test of the original if function. Well, that's all I need there. I'm going to hit comma. Now, if it is true, I'm going to do the quote, he did it. And then comma. If it's untrue, I'm going to type in he failed. I'm actually trying something because I capitalized D, and I don't think the answer had it like that. We'll see if it marks me wrong or right. It doesn't matter if it's capitalized or not. So I'm going to drag it down. We'll see if it is correct. There you go. He failed. He did it. That means he met one of the criteria. Okay, before the graph that we'll do. Last we'll say is we're going to create a function that calculates taxes only if the company's EBT is positive. If you lose money, you're not going to pay taxes. So what we're going to do here is I want to have the earnings before taxes multiplied times the tax rate only if, look, there's a negative, I'm not paying taxes that year. So just to do this really quick, I'm going to take the EBT, and we've done this before. I'm going to multiply it, shift 8 times the tax rate. I'm going to hit function F4. Now, I don't care row and column. I'm dragged to the right. It's only columns, but I don't care that I have both of those. And look what it's going to do. Well, that negative is not going to be correct because I'm not paying negative taxes. That actually would be a carryover the next year. So I'm not going to pay taxes there. So we need an if function to solve this. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to say if, what am I doing? If the earnings before taxes above is greater than 0, I'm going to hit comma, if it's greater than 0. Now, if you can't see it down here, go to the Formula tab. You'll see it. So I'm only going to calculate if it's greater. If it is greater, then I'm going to select that cell again. I want that cell multiplied times the tax rate, function F4 on the taxes. So it's only going to calculate it if it's greater than 0. And then if it is not greater than 0, I want 0 taxes paid. So I think that's going to satisfy our function. I'm going to go over and we'll see if that does it. Yes, it did. Okay, that's one method. Another one we could do is, if you want to make it more simple instead of doing if functions, which can get very complicated, is I'm going to do a max function. Okay, so I'm going to do max. So I want this number times the tax rate, function F4. So the max function, every time I hit comma, I want the max of, so when you hit comma, it's a new set of numbers. Whatever's the highest number of those, I want the max. So I'm going to say I want that EBT multiplied times the tax rate, and then comma, I want the max between that and 0. So if it's positive, that's greater than 0, it will calculate it. Now, if this was negative, then negative EBT, that'd be less than 0. That means it'll give me the max between a negative number and 0, which is then 0. So I think a max function might be the most simple that you can do. See, look. Because that's a negative. It took the max between a negative number and a 0. Okay, last, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little visualization here, and then you can get much more complicated. I'll make it very basic. What I want to do here is I just want to look at yards. I want to see what Barry Sanders did per year. So you could do a bunch of stuff. I could do pivot tables. I could do graphs. Maybe we could do a later video on that. But I'm going to go into Insert. I'm going to go to Recommended Charts. I'm going to select Recommended Charts, and I got a bunch of options here. I could do a bar or clustered column. You could do bar tabs. I could do a scatter chart, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick this scatter chart. Looks very basic, and look what it does. It does the years go by, and it shows, and those are each year. That's a certain specific year. There's his best year, over 2,000 yards, and it shows progression over his career. So if I go here, I could type in that. It just says YDS. I could say Barry Sanders yards per year. Computer's going kind of slow here. I think it's because I got a bunch of Excel files open. So you could do that. I could do some more editing. Like, for example, I don't like those lines there, so I'm going to hit delete. And that looks like a cleaner graph. That's one thing you can do. I'm going to go to that plus sign. I'm going to say I want access titles, right? I want people to know, what is this? I can say that's total yards in a season. You can do that. I can go to the x-axis down here, and I could title that. I could say seasons. Barry Sanders seasons. So just to show that you can do a lot of things here with this graph, and it's really easy to copy paste. I can go here. I can do a lot more editings. I can say no line on the border. I don't want a line. Now there's no line. Look at that. You put in the Word doc, that can look pretty nice. I can select that. Look, I got some options up here. I can go, look at that. It looks almost like a stock market kind of thing. I got black, the blue and the black. Now, if this is some sort of research paper, you kind of want to make it simple. White is probably the best in that example. I want to bold certain points. Not to make it too complicated here, but there's a bunch of things you can do. You could do fill. Oh, I can go back. I can go to edit. Here's the styles you can edit through. But there are tons of stuff that you can mess around with. I can go to trend line. Let's do a trend line. Look at that. That under the plus sign, hit the trend line. Bunch of things you can do. That's good for data. Shows the regression. That's what it is. It's the average regression for the seasons. Try to make a nice little line going in there. But maybe later on we could do more with graphs, more in depth on it, and if people have to do reports, but if you want to show the basics. If you were to highlight a couple of these, I could go there, highlight that. I could hold down Control, highlight this. I don't know if this makes sense, but I could, oops, hold on. Highlight that, and I could graph that. It's going to look kind of weird, I think. Not going to make too much sense. So I go to Insert, Recommended Charts. So you got the charts there. I always like going to Recommended Charts and then show you the different options you have. That's it for Module 3. I think I just want to show some calculations. And before we go, oh, never mind. I'll have maybe something more in depth when we talk about these financial models. But when we get into the actual accounting and finance class, I'm going to be using a lot of these techniques. And all you know the basic stuff that I've gone over in these videos, and we can go ahead and start solving depreciation. We can start solving different things and find out really how that affects the 3-statement model. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.